Hello guys. High time I got back out here. As you can see, we're in the sun. I hope it lasts because there's a couple of big clouds out there. But for now, I'm good. Oh yes, out in the sun, and I got me a fresh cup of coffee, black with honey and a bit of spice. You have to, let that flavor reach out into the inner multiverse and sort of pull all the quantum cloud elements back together of the, sort of thing that I'm supposed to be. I have been away from the YouTube for a bit, and I'm sorry I haven't been able to do any uploading or any vlogging. I tried on Monday because I did want to show you my finished little goddess oracle, and I think they're really pretty, and I just want to share them with you. But there were a couple of other things in the way. Actually, the sun's hot enough for me to take this wintry vest off. It turned out I had to do quite a bit of completion work again. And I finally figured it out. I think I finally figured it out that whenever I've mentioned a couple of times in the past weeks that my husband tends to, get, in a bit of a, as humans do, in a bit of a fix with something, and then he gets either annoyed or frustrated or something like that, and I react to that very badly. And that's one reason why I'm putting this out there, hopefully, because this happens to everyone, and in my case, I should really call my channel something like Do Your Own Therapy or something like that, because that's what I'm trying to do. I am trying to do every single bloody thing myself. And there's reasons for that. And I have more or less made out that it's not that I don't want to listen to people if, things to contribute or good advice or tools. I will use everything I can get. But I am the one in charge, and I need to feel that I am in charge and that I determine what happens to me. And I'm not going to submit myself to a therapist because, bad, bad memories and things like that. Not for me necessarily being in therapy, but just handing over my power, is not something I want to do. So, it turns out, I've said this already a couple of times, that why I react badly is because I am triggered. I am reminded of the situation I was in with my mother. My mum passed away when I was 28, and I spent, I should say, past tense, all that time, 28 years, I was either in total chaos because my parents were in divorce, or in total chaos because we moved house every couple of years or every year, also in other countries. And in the last, I don't know, 15 years of those 28, I suppose I spent a great deal of time feeling very alone. Um, Also, because my mother was physically sort of an invalid. She could move about, she could take care of herself, but she wasn't really fit enough to, have any. And there was her health situation, or lack thereof, was really a reflection of a lot of inner stuff that she'd never really managed to deal with. And she was also very headstrong, very stubborn, strong willed person. So, and from one angle, you might have said she had narcissistic tendencies or certainly depressed tendencies towards depression. Not from every angle. I think it's important to stress that. I'd never want to, sit here and just blame her for everything that's happened to me. I don't think that's really fair. I don't think that's really how things went at all. A part of the way things were for me personally, and the way I'm sitting here talking to you now, is also just due to my own personality, of course. And it's one of the reasons that I got so interested in astrology, like 30 years ago, and ever since, because it gave me a really sound explanation for the fact that my parents had certain traits that they had in common, even though they fought all the time, and even though they were really, damaged also each by the other in all sorts of ways. But that for me, the perspective was completely different because I don't share their traits. I have some of the, genetic material, obviously, but not the astrological makeup. So that's just, I was so relieved the first times that I sort of saw it sink in that, okay, this explains why I have, a tough time dealing with this, that, and the other. Why I react badly to power struggles, especially. I'm an ascendant Libra myself. I have my moon opposite the ascendant, not completely opposite, but close, in Aries. So I react I'm very strongly reacting on impulse always. And at the same time, I love being in harmony because I'm an ascendant Libra. So these two things, they're opposite for a reason. That makes a lot of sense to me, and that's how finally I just, you know, got to have a really strong relationship with astrology more than with any other branch of science, I think. And I consider it a science, yes, because there's stuff to know. And if you just figure out for yourself what it means to you to have, I don't know, Venus in Cancer, then you will know what it is that I'm talking about. You just have to come into contact with this information in a way. So I am being very rambly again, also because it's still fairly early in the morning for me anyway, and I haven't really had my coffee yet, but I just wanted to get out here. I just wanted to talk to you people again. I wanted to show my face to tell you what's happened. And so here it is. What's happened is that I figured out on a much deeper level. I will put in the description a link to a video of an ambient type ambience. It's the channel is called Guild of Ambience. I don't know if you ever listened to that type of thing. It's really very much a Halloween video of an hour that I used yesterday, sort of on purpose to get at my level of frustration, level of anxiety and abandonment that is really at the bottom in my person, that of course I've myself always done everything to ignore and push away and suppress as much as possible, because that was part of the game with my mother. I was supposed to be the happy girl. So go ahead and try be happy on purpose, or because it's the only option, the only self-definition that you get. It's not possible, really. My mother needed me to be happy. That's what she thought. And because I was scared of her, because she had, because there had been things when I was little where she had really freaked me out and hit me, a couple of times, and used physical force to make me listen, I've never gotten over that fear. That fear is really at the bottom of everything. And it used to freeze my guts and freeze my every cell in my body whenever I came back into a position or a situation where I am under somebody's heel or somebody's thumb. It's not for me. That's the reason. It's one of the reasons why I'm into personal sovereignty so much, and why it all ties in with each other, with the astrology and the horoscope and all the rest of it. But basically, my experience with my mother has been one of being a servant in her house, and also, she loved me very much and she wanted to protect me, but you can't protect a 17-year-old all the time, because then you get all the problems. And one memory that surfaces each time is I wasn't 17 at that time, I was like 25 or something like that. And I was staying with her in her house at that time for a holiday or something. I was still a student, so I must have been 23, 4, something like that. And maybe it was in the winter season, I'm not sure. It was very nice weather out and evening, and the sun had set, and maybe it was in the summer, I don't know. We were alone together in the house, my mom and I. My husband was in my life, but he wasn't around at that time. So I was sitting, I'd gone out, and I was sitting on the stoop of the house, what do you call that? On the porch, really. Just out the door. Within reach, And I was just enjoying the night air and the wonderful fragrance of the what are those called, sycamore trees in the south of France, and the atmosphere is just full of fragrance, and I was enjoying that. And there was a warm wind in the trees, and I was just sitting there for a bit. And my mum came out. Where were you? All upset, and she hadn't seen that I'd gone out or where I was, and she wanted me to come back, come in to the kitchen. I was upset and angry, of course, because she was intruding upon a moment that was really special to me. And I'm telling you this because it's the contrast between who I want to be, present tense, still, because I can't be anyone else. This is, me trying anything to reintegrate myself, all my possible selves and all my sides, and whether people agree or disagree, I will, I'm of the generation that I will try to be discreet about things, but still, it's just, it's my life, like we all say, and I have to do me. I cannot do her anymore, and I don't think that she ever really wanted me to. She was in a very bad way herself, and she had all sorts of trouble and and some of it was her own personality. As I said, she was, stubborn, and also very alone, and very much in pain, and she didn't have any help. But she didn't want help, just like me. So who do I get that from? Anyway, I'm just sketching this. I am yesterday. What I want to get to. Yesterday morning, I spent, I think, about 2 or 3 hours in total, sort of immersed. It is completion work. What I do at that stage is I borrowed from Teal Swan's completion process some of this kind of, it's very natural to want to approach the part of you that hurts. And it is also because it's been so long, it is become unnatural. So those two tendencies tend to pull me either way, and I have to work quite a bit to get to the level of communicating with this part of me that hurts, the part of me that hated being a non-entity, not being my own person, not feeling alive, feeling like nothing was allowed, etc. More of that. And then I kind of felt at some point you get a kind of a sense of something melting, the cold slightly, you know, becoming slightly less oppressive in there. And I used the video of this cold marshland forest with that in the description to the video it says that the forest is cursed, and that's why it's a Halloween themed video, you know, because you're supposed to get into that mood, and towards the second half of the video you get more and more like disembodied voices and sounds like scary spooky Halloween type noises. So that went so well with the process I was in. And okay, so I got to this point where I started to feel a slightly more communicative interaction with this part of myself, and that's the part that actually told me I have to get rid of this bit here. Maybe I should make a little braid, and it will, you know, stick out my head like that. you you have to find out what the viewpoint is of the part inside of us that has been suppressed for so long. And each time I do this, I've done this like a 2 dozen, 3 dozen times in the past 4 or 5 years or so, I think. Maybe it's less than that. Maybe it's 3 years that I've really been engaged in this process. It is helping because I can tell the difference. Actually, after a few hours or towards the end of the afternoon, I could feel that I get a sense of being expanded, sort of. It's not immense, and it's not like a complete 180-degree change or anything, but I do feel more alive again. That's my thing. That's my go-to phrase that I use always whenever it's about this type of change. Really, it's a slow process, and to change our relationship, my relationship with my fearful nature, you know, it takes a lot of doing. In this particular case, it's what I have this wonderful platform on YouTube where I can share all this stuff and just put it out there, and mix it up with cards and incense and nature and all sorts of you know aspects to the whole process. I can share all that with some of you, and I think we need that. Some of us really do. So, good Lord, 17 minutes, 18 minutes, and haven't really shown you anything yet. Anyway, the introduction is needed because as I had sort of come out of my, state, or progressed forward to, enter into a new state of communication, I felt like I'm going to take out my newly minted little goddess oracle cards that I made and that I will show to you in just a tiny second. And I will, at first, before that, I watched a video at Shuffle Tarot's Nina, who did a self-care little spread of 3 cards, and that inspired me to take out my own goddess oracle because she used one of hers for that. And I will also put the link to that video in the description, so you can have a look at that. It's really short and quite sensible. A spread of 3 positions where there's a need for love, or there's an abundance for love, and there's a way that you can spread the love. So those 3 positions, right? So I'd watched that, I had drawn my 3 cards, and they were just spot on. It was perfect. And then I got into thinking, because the 3rd card, how can I spread the love, was actually not really a goddess figure in this deck. It was this one. And now this is I think a fresco painting of some sort. I don't know what the location. It will probably be in a museum at some point, possibly in the Met or some such high-end location. This is Sappho, the poet, of Greek antiquity. And see how nice I put this in because I just like her expression so much. And she's a poet, and she looks very much like she's sort of pondering different possibilities for a text that she's writing. And I have also myself been a writer of poetry. I don't consider myself a poet necessarily, because I am less interested in the end product, in the end text, than I am in the writing of it. I write because I need that. And that's where everything just sort of came together yesterday. I had my 3 cards, and I will show you the other 2 ones in a bit. When I go through this deck, I will, we will encounter the other 2, and I will tell you about them then. This will be a lengthy tale, yes, as it tends to be on this channel. But I started writing again. I had this perfect moment where I had this inner drama going on between, these sides of me that I both need to be alive. I had even a scene of a natural surroundings that I could use. That's something I really like, and I've worked with that type of, it's basically kind of poetry and also kind of shamanic journeying and journaling. And then I printed it out on the computer and added pictures. So excellent fun being had, I was really on my own creative track, like my little locomotive, going forward, and I was actually making the stuff that matters to me. And writing poetry is something that I've done since I was, 18 or so, where first images and then words would come to me, and I would write everything down, and the weirdest, the most extraordinary and insane kind of dreamlike fantasy stuff would come out, just constantly. But it's a special kind of vibration, and I'm really glad I finally sort of get back to this for the first time in 2 years or so. Every time something changes in my life, or like with the Shakti energy, there's been a big change. And then my creative process kind of grinds to a halt. And I have to assimilate everything first. It takes forever. Yeah. So, I'm going to have one more gloop of coffee. In case you hear all sorts of humming, you can see the reflection over there in the glass. There's a bush, very thorny, prickly bush that grows against my wall here, and it's in flower now. And there's bees and hummingbirds, no, bumblebees. That's what I meant. I saw a hummingbird on a video just a while back. So the hummingbird went into my words instead of the bumblebee that it's supposed to be. But they're enjoying the honey and the general sunny goodness. So that's what the sound is. I don't know if you hear anything. I just hear it all the time, and they're buzzing, and sometimes they're passing like mute in front of the camera. So maybe you see a bee passing. That's normal. That's okay. Cards. Green Tara, the Tara of compassion and the bodhisattva, really, of being engaged with the world, and how appropriate. The white Tara of enlightenment, really. So I found out, or I realized, that a number of my goddesses come in pairs, like these 2. There's a choice between those 2. So if you get one of these cards, you will still be in one particular type of process, or maybe I should say, I will be in a particular type of meditative, seeking truth type process, but the angle will be different, and my intention will be different if I get the green or if I get the white Tara. a coin that has Athena's owl on it. And there's actually 3 letters at the top here. I hope you can see that. It says Athe, I think. So that's short for Athena. To be determined exactly what this means, I would say this is quite a fair representative of what in tarot would be the 7 of Swords. A coin and a goddess that is all about strategy and the air element, the intellectual side of things, the what do you conclude type of approach. So as I'm going here, I'm showing you my cards that I made and improvising more or less from also what happened yesterday with the 3-card spread. Here's Sappho again. So obviously I've got an immense relationship with this one now. I'm so grateful that she came out. It's just incredible. I just went off and wrote 4 pages of my favorite type of lyrical ramble, and boom, it was in Dutch, by the way, and I'm not sure it's gonna fare all that well in translation, so I'll spare you that. Unless you want me to do something with that, I can always, maybe next year when I'm more confident, when it's all behind us, and all the intensity is kind of behind us. But that card will definitely remind me of that, the need in me for writing, for using words in more ways than one, because that's what poetry means to me, to have a tool that's very flexible. It's more flexible than paint, if possible. So, and then to put all your heart and soul into that, and put all your endeavor and your needs and whatever it is that that you're looking for into that. So creative, right? This one is, I'm distracted now because my cat has shown up. He wants to be in the video. This is Nehalenia. This is a type of shrine cut out of rock of some type of, probably, what do you call that? A chalky type, so fairly soft rock. And of this type of shrine, a couple of hundred have been found in the west part of the Netherlands, actually in the sea, close to one of the islands, and they're in a museum now, where we have seen some of them. I don't know how many there were found, really. There were quite a huge number of them. And they're always, this is like a mother goddess, a mother deity, who always has a basket of fruit with her and a dog. And she's in a shrine like a little house. To me, she stands for, she's really a protector deity, but a very mild-mannered one. And she has, I don't know, very little is known about Nehalenia as is. There aren't any texts, I think. All there is these shrines where her name is actually carved out on the shrine. And there are no legends, there is nothing to work with, really, in terms of story or, background or any of it. Not like, for example, for Nordic or Viking gods and goddesses, where there's quite a bit of literary material, even from the Middle Ages, that you can sort of dig into to get at the substance of what they were trying to say, trying to express with a character like that. But because I'm Dutch and I live in this country and I come from this country, I feel like Nehalenia is she's still present here, even though actually I think there's actually every day candles are lit for her in a newly made shrine, but I'm not quite sure how serious they are about that. But they do light candles, so how cool is that? And we are so common sense in this country. We're so not into, mythology and symbolism and, you know, getting carried away. I should really live in, you know, the south of Spain, I think, temperament wise. Um, but I don't. I live here, and there's quite a bit of, you know, there's good stuff to be had here as well, especially if the sun is shining. Oh my goodness, because it's been very grey over the past couple of weeks, and we've had rain, which is good because we needed the water, also the rainwater. But it was dismal and dark. So in the month of May, I want to see the sunshine. Thank you very much. So Nealenia also has to do with the weather. She's also a protectress of seafarers and you know, shipping trade and all that type of thing. So, but she's a very common sense type girl. She's a protectress, but not a fierce one. We're getting to some more of that. Kuan Yin, in a bit of a masculine presentation, I think she looks rather androgynous here. Kuan Yin is, of course, all about mercy and compassion. Very like parallel almost to the Buddha, if I could say that. Yes, I don't know. Feel free. Feel free to comment, please. Please comment if you like. If you have, you know, info that we can use or any other ideas. I have a mermaid. Some of them are just decorative, really, but they are like decorative motifs that come back again and again. Mermaids and other females have been carved onto ships since forever, I think, and in more and more detail. I just thought she was really cute also. She's got like this really, she's got almost like an elf-like face with you know, slanted eyes, big eyes like that. She looks a bit like an elf. So I would say a visitor from a natural world to be dot dot dot. You know, to as you feel, as you feel that applies to you in that situation. Something along those lines. Something coming to us. This is Kali, the Indian goddess. Now that's also a protector. And a very fierce one. There's another fierce protector in the deck that will come out soon. And this is, she's, you know, she's got a point to make, Kali. And so she will always be about defending. There's also an element of Shakti energy in there. And like I've said in my previous video last week, I don't want to repeat too much of what I said last week. Never mind. Bugger last week, it's gone. A dancer, I think a Greek statuette of a woman with a child. And it's, I think, in the British Museum, this one. And she was presented as a dancing woman. This was my middle card of the area of my life that is abundant with love yesterday. So I felt like this represents that I enjoy being alive so much. And also with the child, you know, connecting with any and all living creatures. I hope you can see the child next to her right there. See? But basically joy. So then we get a prehistoric one. As you see, I haven't drawn any of this myself. I have basically made cards with an in a Word document with an oval that has a representation of some type of female and or goddess figure on it. And at the bottom is the same Hungarian piece of embroidery, instead of having text, which I think would distract, to me at this point, distract from the image. Also, I enjoyed adding the Hungarian embroidery to that. Let me see if I can put that a bit closer. It won't focus, of course. Because this type of embroidery is very time consuming to make, and it is done only to embellish So only out of love for color and shape. And I just loved having that motif coming back again and again with each figure. I liked that. I kind of liked that at the time, this female here, this is a sculpture really out of the Stone Age in France. I haven't seen her in real life, I think. In the middle of France, in the Dordogne somewhere, um, with this horn. There's all sorts of theories. It's probably one of the very oldest female representations of this type that's been ever been found. And of course, there isn't, at that time that she was carved, there wasn't, this type of thread or this type of embroidery at all. It's not like that. It is on my card today that I bring them together because I like this sense of endless time. That is actually what they have in common, the embroidery and the carving. The sense of the depth of time. And there's personal time, as like when you sit embroidering some type of work like that, or sewing or knitting, it takes forever. So you have to be willing to give your time to the work, and then you get the work in return. It's like a relationship, really. So I'm kind of suggesting, maybe, I think, to myself, that by putting this embroidery next to all these figures, in each case, there's kind of an exchange happening on a very physical, visceral level. So that's about, that bit. This stone carving, to me, just looks rather happy. She doesn't have a face. It's basically a big bottom, more or less quite recognizable as a female. I mean, I'm like that most of the time. And she looks, funnily enough, because she doesn't have a face, she still looks, in her posture, she looks like she can deal. Yeah, something like that. So it's cards to help me think also. That's what's happening here. This is the Gaulish, so from Gaul, Roman era or slightly before. Her name is Epona, the horse goddess. So a rider, very much comparable, I think, to the rider card. Sorry, in the Lenormand, and very female, obviously, although she looks a bit no nonsense as well, just like Nealenia. It's the same period as Nealenia, I think, around slightly after Christ, I think. One more sip of coffee. It's cold now, but it's still good. Oh yes, now we get into the Seat of Wisdom. There's two of these as well. The other one will come out in a bit. This is not Rocamadour. They're both French, I think. Although it's possible this is actually Montserrat, because there's a couple of really beautiful mother and child statues like this from the Middle Ages. That some of them are still actually in churches. They actually get candles. They're still in a ritual context, not in a museum context. Although there's lots of those as well. There's a museum in Barcelona that has like rows of all those black mother statues. They're amazing. I just want to go there today. Let me see, just for the sake of having sense. This is the other Vierge Noire. This is a French one. I like her because she's quite thin. They're made out of wood. This one is less ornamental than the other one, as you can see. It doesn't have like much gold at all. She does have a bit of gold, but I kind of like the stick arms and the thin. She's carved out of a tree trunk, basically, somewhere in the 12th century. And these statues, I have seen a few of them, and I actually, very extraordinary, and I'm so glad to share this. We do have one quite close to us here. This is a standing statue of a Queen of Heaven type, really, with the crowns. She's not black, but she has quite a number of traits because she's also from, what was it, 13th, 14th century? Old. So the same period of time, really. All these three are, to me, they are really earth matrons, but they're very civilized. It's like the force has been held back for generations, and they are poised and civilized and well behaved, and most of the time you have to be nice to them. You have to be polite, and then they will speak to you. They're queens, all three of those. And I should, be able to say something sensible at this point about the difference between those three. I will just let you decide, for yourself. Here's a completely different image again. This is an Etruscan sculpture. I shouldn't put it that close to the camera, should I? Because it won't focus any better. Of a double-tailed mermaid. And there's a story about this, which I haven't read yet. This one's cool because she's got wings as well, and the wings have eyes in them, and she's got a sword. So there's a lot more going on here that meets the eye. I've got another one of those in the form of a drawing, probably a pen and ink drawing, or possibly an etching. I like her expression. Both of these represent a union with an animal part of ourselves, and this one is a bit sad in her face. I hope you can see that. To me, she has a certain, like nobody really understands me type of feeling about her. The other one, the Etruscan sculpture, doesn't. She's full of her own, she's confident. She's full of her own work. She has stuff to do. She isn't, she isn't about to be messed with, obviously. So we've got a couple more Greek statues. This is Hecate. It's actually a triple Hecate with 3 young people, children, female. Yes, actually they are, I don't know if you can see that. They are 3 priestesses, I think, 3 servants around, and the whole thing is what looks like a candle holder to me, also in the British Museum. Hecate, of course, triple-sided, 3 persons, 3 women, very beautiful, very poised and harmonious, but also very much a threshold figure. And here is what happens when you cross over the threshold. This is one of my top favorites, because you can see that there's like a doorpost in the middle, and there's 2 figures, one going in and the other coming out. Isn't that cool? This is an actual Greek statue found in burial grounds in Greece, in Pasikrata. I am not sure I pronounced that right. It will, you just have to figure out where the stuff comes from anyway. Rather than draw my own, which is a lot more work, I just wanted to gather the images that I liked to myself and work with them. And as it turns out, it is happening to me. This is Durga, another very poised and very powerful female. It's because of this activity, printing those, selecting the images and then printing out the cards and all that, that I actually realized, to me anyway, what all the arms mean on this goddess figure here. It's her power. She has, 22 or 24 arms or something like that, and of course it's symbolic of something or other. But she basically has a lot of expressive power. She can do anything with all those hands. Here's the other fierce protector. This is Lamo, Tibetan protector deity. a very scary figure. And this was my third card, the card of the position that needs love, that is lacking in the department of love. There's a whole story that I can go into, with my mother and Lamo and her story and how and everything and what my mom was on about. I will spare you that. At the moment, I've got a connection with this goddess, even though she's something I don't want to meet in person. Thank you very much. Or maybe I have, and maybe we are already done, and maybe that's why I'm here. If I say stuff like that, it just goes "Ugh," spooky. Now, here's something really physical and practical. This is a fresco found in Pompeii, in Italy, of a woman and a swan having a good time together. I like this. I want to have a bit, more of the. Because that's what we're all about. We are not about not having a body, if that makes sense. Yeah. Here's another variant of Kuan Yin, if I can call it that. This is a Japanese portrait of Kanon. I just love the lines on her face. It looks like tears, and that's obviously what the photographer thought as well. I just thought it was a really handsome image, and what with the poised expression of the face, a lot can be said. The only non-Eurasian figure that I had to have in here, Pachamama, and also the one representation of her that I thought was more or less easy for me to understand, because there's quite a bit about Mexican artifacts that I don't feel I have never been there, so I'm not familiar enough with that. I cannot really make a lot of sense of it. I don't feel I'm not connected to it. So, but I've seen things on TV about Pachamama, and I do have a tiny little bottle of an essential oil mixture that somebody made dedicated to Pachamama, which has a really strong earthing, grounding vibration. So I couldn't not, have her. I'm going to move on slightly quicker. A prehistoric all black goddess. There is one other prehistoric, of course. Hey, that was a bumblebee right in my face. At the moment, the Venus of Willendorf is a German or Austrian, south of Germany, someplace like that, village where this statuette was found. It's actually, I think, this big, like 8 centimeters or something. And it's still pristine, it's still in perfect shape. So that's one reason why I had to have this one. I am going to see, I have two more, a set of Sheila na jigs from Kilnaboy in Ireland that I actually visited myself. That's why this one had to go in. I don't know if you can see, but there's a spreaded legged female at the top of the chapel door right there. And this one is kind of the same Sheila statuette, except it's in England. There's lots of those, lots more than and they're very mysterious, and nobody really knows what to think of Sheila and the Jigs anyway. Astarte, she started me off. Astarte started me off. I said that seriously. Anyway, sorry guys. Persian, Iranian sculpture from, I have no idea what time period, long ago, before Christ, I think, with animals, very poised, very pretty. And I found this photograph and I felt like, this is the time. Now I'm going to do my goddess thing. I have a couple more. We're almost, there's 33 cards in total. It's the empty shirt that I showed you already last time. It's stone, it's a stone sculpture. A fresco of a girl picking flowers, also Pompeii, I think. Not quite completely sure. a fresco of a Cretan painting called, nowadays known as La Parisienne, the Parisian girl, because she's so pretty. I did not include the Minoan goddess with the two serpents and her boobs sticking out into the universe because I felt it was a bit much, you know. However, we do have this one, almost the same, except she's got birds instead of snakes, and no boobs, and a very wide skirt. And this is actually a Russian embroidery again. And these are used, cloths like this, with these type of patterns embroidered on them, are used to cover up the icon, of the saints, to protect them from dust. So, there's the goddess. Isn't that funny? My last card, my gypsy matron, I should call her, Sara Lakali. Sarah the Black, and this is the statue of Sarah as it is in the south of France, on the coast. There's a village where all the Roma people and Sinti people gather. I believe a few times a year, but especially around the feast days. And there's processions, and the statue is carried around to the sea and all that type of stuff. And there's all sorts of stories that can be read about Sara Lakali. And of course, it's fascinating that, to me especially, because of the gypsy past lives, business, and the links with India and all that, all came together. So yeah, she had to come. These are the backs, and a photograph of an opal scully on top of the same. They're all the same type of brocade, fancy, material, fabric, I should say, with all woven in flowers, really pretty, that I just, got from somebody's India shop where they sell that stuff. And you can just download the picture. And if you want that type of information, if you want to know where I got the fabric from, tell me and I'll put the link in. And you can, go and shop, because they've got pretty stuff. So that's it. I'm almost an hour in, you guys. I'm going to stop right here. I am so glad that I made this. Etched them in 3 colors, brown, dark blue, and purple, in that order, to make a really sturdy little compact deck. And this is the one at the front. And it is May time, spring, and life is going on. So thank you so much. If you lasted this long, well done. Thank you, and see you very soon. Bye-bye.